and welcome to the program. Tonight we'll be discussing a condition called stuttering and the lived experiences of people who stutter. Our special guest this evening is speech pathologist Michael, who specialises in stuttering conditions. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
So what is stuttering?
Well, speech sounds are made by a series of coordinated muscle movements which involve breaking, phonation and articulation. Stuttering is a disruption in these speech sounds and it affects verbal fluency. It is characterised by involuntary, audible or silent repetitions or prolongations of sounds or syllables and may be accompanied by signs of irritation and tension in the speaker.
Okay, so how is stuttering diagnosed?
Stuttering is diagnosed by a speech or language pathologist or a health professional who is trained to test and treat individuals with voice, speech and language disorders. A speech-language pathologist will consider factors such as an individual's case history, analysis of stuttering behaviours, evaluation of speech and language abilities, and try to predict if stuttering is likely to continue. This prediction is determined by factors such as family history of stuttering, whether stuttering has lasted 6 months or longer, and whether other speech or language problems are existent.
Okay, so what sorts of people are affected by stuttering?
Stuttering affects people of all ages, however it occurs most often in children between the ages of 2 and 5 as they are in the crucial stage of language development. The most common type of this condition is developmental stuttering, and that occurs in young children while they are still developing speech and language skills. It evolves without apparent brain damage, however it may be genetically linked.
Okay, so what's the prevalence of stuttering?
Well, approximately 1% of the Australian population experiences stuttering at any given time, and as many as 5% across a lifetime. The prevalence of developmental stuttering in children is about 5%, and the recovery rate is approximately 80%. However, research has shown that boys are twice as likely to stutter as girls as they get older. The number of boys who continue to stutter is 3 to 4 times larger than girls as well.
Okay, well thank you, Michael.
No problem.
Now we will be interviewing two individuals, Stephanie and Julia. Both Julia and Steph developed stuttering as children, but had very different outcomes and lived experiences due to different influences within their lives. Hi girls.
Hi.
So first of all, I'll start off with you, Julia. Thank you so much for being with us today. So when were you identified as a stutterer?
Yeah, I was around 4 years old when I was first identified as a stutterer because I kept repeating my sounds and letters.
Okay, what about you, Steph?
My parents noticed that I was stuttering at about the age of 5 years, but they didn't really think it was a problem, so they didn't take me to see anyone. And then it sort of cleared up a bit, so both my parents and teachers weren't concerned anymore.
Okay, so for all of our listeners out there who aren't aware of what core and secondary behaviours of stuttering are, I'll get you, Michael, to explain this for us.
Sure, no problem. So core behaviours are a term used to describe the voluntary basic speech behaviours of stuttering. So that is repetitions, prolongations and blocks. While secondary behaviours encompass trying to avoid core behaviours through either trying to end them quickly, known as an escape behaviour, or trying to avoid them altogether, known as an avoidance behaviour. And these will soon turn into learned patterns.
Okay, so Julia, did you develop any core or secondary behaviours?
Yeah, I developed a core behaviour of repetition, which is most frequently observed in children when they begin to stutter, and I become stuck on a sound and continue repeating it till I finally made the sound I wanted to make, but I actually didn't develop any secondary behaviours.
Okay, what about you, Steph?
Well, like I said, that my stuttering did sort of stop, but when I was about 8 years old, I developed a middle ear infection, which interrupted my learning capabilities, and it was at that time that I developed my secondary behaviours, which then turned into learned patterns. So these included my escape behaviour of nodding my head at the termination of my stutter, and also the avoidance behaviour of saying before I would pronounce a word that I knew I was going to stutter.
Okay, so did either of you see a speech pathologist?
Yep, my parents took me to see a speech pathologist to see if I was progressing normally or not, and the speech pathologist said that I had a mild stutter, which is hard to pick up on in children because children tend to repeat their words anyway, but they said it was something I needed to work on.
Okay, and you, Steph?
No, I didn't. Unfortunately, it was a bit hard for my family. It was a bit too expensive for them to pay for treatment, and the speech pathologist didn't visit my school due to it being in a rural area.
Okay, so Julia, what type of treatment was suggested to you?
So I'd go and see the speech pathologist once a week for several weeks to work on my stuttering before I went to proper schooling so that it wouldn't affect my confidence or learning while I was there.
Okay, and did you think that it did affect your confidence while you were speaking?
It's hard to remember because it was such a long time ago, but my parents told me it didn't seem to affect me that much, and that if I began proper schooling without that help, then it may have affected me more than what it did.
Okay, so what kind of activities did you do with the speech pathologist?
From memory, we played lots of games, and I remember a lot of them were about pausing and really focusing on what I wanted to express and how I said it. And the speech pathologist would pay a lot of attention to me and always expressed how she was listening to me. So I think that she wanted me to speak clearly and take my time, which ultimately helped.
So in the end, your stuttering disappeared and you could begin with schooling as per normal without any difficulties?
Yeah, basically I know without the speech pathology sessions it would have gone much differently, so I'm very thankful that my parents were supportive like that, as well as my speech pathologist for helping and putting so much time and effort into removing my stutter.
Yeah, so Steph, did you think that not seeing a speech pathologist affected you socially?
Yeah, I definitely did struggle a lot. The other kids would take notice of my secondary behaviours that I previously spoke about and sort of would bring up the fact that I was talking like a child and not at the same level that they were. And because of this, they would tease me, and so my anxiety levels would definitely increase, and my stuttering would then, as a result, sort of become worse. And it just sort of became a vicious cycle after that, so sometimes I'd just not talk at all.
Okay, so did the stuttering stop after high school?
It definitely calmed down a lot and I could control it a lot better. However, when I began my law degree, my anxiety levels began to rise again, and I would often begin stuttering. And even now, after I finished my degree and practicing law, when I become really stressed, I do begin to stutter.
Okay, so it seems that stuttering didn't really affect you studying. How about finding a job?
Yeah, I guess it didn't really affect me after graduating. Tackling a job is now my next move, but I still do my exercises when both speaking and reducing my stress levels, and this has just sort of become part of my life now. And it's not easy, but I won't let it stop me from getting to where I want to be.
Okay, that's great to hear. Thank you so much for sharing your story today, and all the best in the future. Now, Michael, going back to you, what are your thoughts on the stories that we've heard today?
Well, it was great to hear that Julia got into seeing a speech pathologist while she was young, and that was beneficial for her. It was a shame to hear about Steph's story, however. It seems as though if Steph was able to seek help from a speech pathologist earlier, before it progressed, it may have been really beneficial for her. But apart from that, it's great to hear that she didn't let it stop her from completing her studies, and she seems determined enough that she will find a job in her future.
Thank you for your insight, Michael, and thanks a lot for being here with us today. Also, a big thank you to Julia and Steph for being here and also sharing your stories with us. Thank you and good evening.